Hey guys, it's ayebeepee and welcome back to my channel. I've got my bachelor's in criminal justice and a minor in psychology, and I'm going to say that for the next 42 videos because I'm just so proud of myself. And on top of that, I am a board member for a nonprofit called Voices for the Silenced, and we help missing person cases, mostly in West Virginia and surrounding areas, get resources they need to the families and friends, and just help them as much as we can to find their missing person. And if you know anyone that is missing around the West Virginia area, please get a hold of us and we'll do what we can. And welcome back to another one in the Unsolved in West Virginia series. This one does deal with domestic violence, unfortunately, and does seem like it should have been pretty easy to solve. But if that was the case, we would not be here right now, right? This is definitely an older case, but this just shows how long these domestic violence instances have been happening, literally all through history. And today we are going to talk about Tammy Daniel. Now, before she was married, she was known as Tammy Jean Hinsdale. She was born October 20th, 1962, and she was 24 years old. She had darker blonde, light brown hair. She was beautiful. She was 5'7". She was around 130 pounds, and she did have a scar on her abdomen from where her spleen was removed. She was known as just very bright and sweet. She was known to be very close to her family, especially her mom and dad. Her mom was named Norma and her dad was Jeff. You'll hear about them later on through this. And she also had a dog named Shasta. She adored her dog. She graduated from Woodrow Wilson High School in the spring of 1980. And her hobby she loved to do was riding motorcycles. She loved it. She did end up marrying a guy named Roger Jean Daniel. He mostly went by Jean, so you'll hear me call him that from now on. And that is how we know her now as Tammy Daniel. She was married to him about 18 months before her disappearance, and they had gotten a trailer together in Stanford, West Virginia. Now, Jean was thought to take her down a bad path. She was starting to hang out with a lot of people her family really didn't trust, and she was starting to experiment with drugs, alcohol, that type of thing. And a few months before her disappearance, she had been photographed with black eyes, and there was clear signs of domestic violence happening with her and Jean. Now, on June 2nd, 1987, around 3 a.m., Tammy's parents picked her up from a bar called El Cid Club in Beckley, West Virginia. They had gotten a call from Beckley police saying that Tammy needed a ride home. And at this time, she was wearing a black t-shirt, jeans, and a black leather jacket. When they got to her house, the door was locked, so she just assumed Jean was already asleep. Norma offered to knock on the bedroom window, trying to wake Jean up, but Tammy was really off-putting about this, kind of like she was scared for her mom to do that. And she pretty much just said she did not want to start an argument with Jean. She then said that she would just sleep in a tent in the front yard so she didn't have to wake Jean up. And at this point, her parents were just trying to convince her to come back home with them that night. It would not be that big of a deal. But she was persistent on wanting to just stay in Stanford, and her family finally just kind of gave up that fight and let her out of the car, where she went and sat on the steps of the trailer. It did not take long, though, before Norma made Jeff turn around and try to get her. She just couldn't stomach the fact that her daughter was going to be sleeping in a tent in the front yard all night. But when they got there, Norma said she heard a storm door close. She had went to walk around the trailer and didn't see Tammy anywhere, so she ultimately just thought Tammy was able to get inside. And since they really just didn't want her to sleep in the front yard, they ended up leaving because they assumed Tammy was safe inside now. Now, that next day, Norma came over to Tammy's house to check on her. Jean said they had gotten into a fight and she had left around 5 a.m., 2 hours probably after she got home, if that. And he admitted that he was the one that asked Tammy to leave. He did say he had no idea where she went, but he would keep her updated when he found out anything about Tammy. But her mom did try to contact her for the next 5 days and never heard a word from Tammy. Now, on June 5th, just a few days after Tammy was last seen, he went to the neighbors and asked if he could use their vacuum. And they said that this vacuum came back in like weird conditions, that it smelled and it was covered in this like sticky substance. So after still hearing nothing from Tammy on June 7th, Norma and Jeff ended up going and reporting Tammy missing. And believe it or not, police acted really fast on this and started investigating pretty much immediately. Shortly after the disappearance was reported, police showed up to the trailer to search it. And inside, they found a pretty big stain in the bedroom. It was soaked all the way down to the padding underneath the carpet. So there would have had to been a lot of whatever stained this. And when you look at this stain, clearly the police figured it was blood. And Jean had no explanation on this stain at all. They interviewed neighbors and a lot of them said they heard an argument break out at 4 a.m. that day, which if Tammy was picked up around 3, she probably did get into that house around 4 o'clock because they would have had that conversation with her mom about, wanting to stay at their house. She had to convince them to leave, all of that, right? But when the police were questioning neighbors, that one neighbor with the vacuum brought that up. And that one neighbor with the vacuum told them about the conditions it was brought back in. So law enforcement did test this vacuum, and it tested positive for blood in 3 different locations, and it just so happened to test positive as the blood type that Tammy had. And at the time of her disappearance, Tammy's story was everywhere. It was in newspapers, it was on media. She was highly covered, but nobody could find her at all. They even put flyers so many different places to get her face out there. The person of interest clearly ended up being Jean, right? But Jean ended up moving out of Stanford pretty much right after Tammy's disappearance. And when they went to look at the house, he had only left a sofa in there. And the police really did follow several attempts on finding her body. They were just completely unsuccessful. In 1988, Jean was indicted for Tammy's murder by Raleigh County prosecuting attorney Kristen Keller. And due to this case being so long ago, it was dismissed because they heavily relied on whether they had a body or not in murder cases. So they did believe they did not have sufficient evidence to find Tammy's husband, Jean, guilty for her murder. And it took Jean all the way till January 1989 to be arrested again. And also for murder. He had shot and killed Walter Morgan while he was in his vehicle on July 8, 1988, at a nightclub in Daniels, West Virginia. He claimed it was self-defense, but he was found guilty of malicious wounding and manslaughter. He was sentenced to life in prison, but has since been paroled. Now, authorities did receive a tip in 2007 about where Tammy Daniel could be. They went and searched a private property in Salt Lick in Raleigh County, but they unfortunately couldn't find anything. Now, Fred Zane was one of the people that worked a lot on Tammy's case, and of course he has now been outed for using flawed methods in his research. And the New York Times was able to find out that he misstated evidence, falsified police reports, and reported impossible results in court. And because he worked a lot on Tammy's case, if it was ever brought to trial again, it'd be so easy for someone to discredit everything that Fred Zane worked on. As of November 2023, though, Chief Deputy Larry Lilly from Raleigh County says they still do work Tammy's case. He also agrees that this case is solvable, and he is really going to try to bring answers for Tammy's family and people that loved her. Tammy has since been declared dead because it has been since 1987, but her body has never been found. Her dad has passed, but I'm pretty sure her mom is still alive, and wouldn't it be so amazing for at least the mom to know what happened to Tammy? And Gene to this day maintains his innocence and claims he just thought Tammy left on her own. If you know anything about Tammy Daniel and her disappearance, there are a few different places that you can contact. No tip is too small. It might seem little to you, but it could be the missing puzzle piece for any investigation. You can contact the Raleigh County Sheriff's Office at 304-255-9300, Crime Stoppers at 304-255-STOP. And in case you would need this information, her NamUs number is MP 21070. And thank you guys so much for watching. This one is so sad, and I think we all know what happened, right? Please, if you're ever in a domestic violence situation, please reach out for help. I think we all can pretty much guarantee that whatever happened to Tammy has to do with the domestic violence she was suffering. And when you're in those types of situations, you just feel so alone, and that there's no one that can help you get out, and that's just not true. Please reach out to anyone. It can truly save your life, because even if he had been violent, I'm sure Tammy didn't think this was the argument that something would happen to her. But thank you guys again so much for watching. Like and subscribe for me, and hit that notification button. That way you're notified the next time I upload. I still have a GoFundMe going for Crystal Young. If you have not watched her video yet, please go watch it, because you need to know why her mom needs this PI so bad. And I still have stickers for sale. They're $2 each, and all proceeds go to the Cold Case Foundation, so it is for a good cause. And thank you guys again so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.